changing the way you shop for vintage denim, make the experience more pleasant for people. A, being really inclusive, and B, just making it almost like where they're just coming in to my studio and we hang out for an hour and become friends. And I give them my honest advice and opinion. They hopefully leave with vintage jeans that they're gonna wear on repeat. Funny enough, don't know if I created it out of knowing. I just did it, and then after doing it, I realized that I had done that. I have this kind of weird knack for almost sometimes nailing it on the first pair. It's this weird spatial recognition thing I have. I guess I'm able to I'll measure someone's waist, but I don't necessarily measure the jeans. I just kind of use, a few things as guides, but then hand them the jeans, and then they're just blown away by how they fit on the first try.
It's
Right.
like a superpower.
It's one of those things where it kind of found me because who would set out to do that? I'm sure that there are people that, also have that gift, but yeah, I didn't realize that I had this gift until other people kind of started raving about it to their friends. They would be like, "You have to have Melissa fit you into a pair of vintage denim. She's a wizard." And I've been called all of the names, which is amazing.
It felt like it called you. You felt called to towards doing it.
All of my life, I always had this entrepreneurial mindset, wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do or how I wanted like, what I wanted to create, and I would always come up with these ideas and, never really followed through on anything, and I would get about 10 steps ahead of myself, and then I would talk myself out of it because I would think about how step 20 was so difficult, but it's like, why didn't I just start with step 1?" And that's kinda how this started. This wasn't what I initially set out to do. I don't think I ever wanted to have, like, a brick and mortar. I didn't wanna be tied to something that didn't give me freedom, but this was a way to give me freedom, but then also create this, like, really unique shopping experience at the same time, and it really works.
Well, I'm gonna ask you all about your business model because I think it's so interesting. You've created something that's brick and mortar, but because it's appointment only, it does give you a certain amount of freedom that you wouldn't have if it was just open store hours. And so I'm gonna ask you all about this because I think it's fascinating that you didn't intend to create something physical like this, or at least not like storefront, and then you did it. What were some of the ideas you played with before, maybe related to this, maybe not, that would have been more freedom in your mind, and what allowed you to say, "Okay, no, like, I'm gonna try this and just see. I know it's different from what I thought, but heck, like, let's see what happens."
I'd say around 2021, because I started my business in 2020, and we can kinda get back to that because it kind of started as, like, something completely different. Around 2021, I was like I think I had been part of a collective for a little while in Denver, and it went okay, but it was definitely like people would come in and they would specifically ask, like, "What is this?" They were confused by it, and I realized that people didn't receive it well because I guess I already knew that I had this gift for picking the right denim for people, like the right shape, but I guess I didn't know how to use it. And a couple of times someone would come in and I would say, "Hey, do you want me to measure your waist?" And to me that came off as kind of very salesy and awkward. So I was like, "Yeah, I don't like that." It was successful in that sense, but I went back to just selling online, and I think around that time, I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna focus back on online sales." I think things were starting to, like, kind of rolling, and I was getting a lot of sales, and I came up with this idea to do a try before you buy, where someone could send me their measurements. We would talk about their body shape. We would I would ask them if there's anything that they struggle with, and then, um, I would send them pictures of all of the options that I had on my website that would fit them, and then they would kind of pick up to 5 pair, send them this box and they would just pay a deposit. And I think it was like $50 at the most, depending on how many you got. And that basically just paid for the shipping there and back. And then they would try on all the jeans, pick which ones they wanted, and then send back the ones that they didn't want. And it worked. It was a lot of work. I wish that I could help everybody and be a yes person, but I have learned a lot about saying no in being in business and having boundaries.
You're creating a different shopping experience because there is a very different feeling when you go in and you get the outfit that fits you the first try, and it just feels like, "Oh, this was made for me." You feel so good versus you really like something, but it doesn't fit quite right, and you know you have to buy it and then get adjustments. It creates this kind of negative emotion and you carry that with you and you don't love the outfit as much, let's be honest, when you have to tailor it. It's not the same.
Right. And I always tell people, I'm like, I want you to pick the pair that you would literally wear out the door today, which people also do, which is always a very good sign. But I want someone to be excited about the jeans that they leave in because I don't wanna create any of those negative emotions. I don't want someone to feel like they want to return them or have buyer's remorse or, not talk positively to their friends. Like, these people are all walking billboards for me, so I want them to be excited about their jeans. Don't like going to a store and the salesperson lying to you and just telling you, "Oh, that one, they all look pretty." That's not me. I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
It's a good point, like, about the walking billboards, because 'cause you're right. I think a lot of times we're so focused on getting the new client and the next customer, but if you have these people who are genuinely really excited about the experience and you help them and they feel like they can come to you, they will come back, I'm sure, because jeans are something you always need, and then you always have recurring revenue, which is the hardest thing for most entrepreneurs to get.
Right, yeah, you can't get caught up in, making a sale when it's not the right one.
So innovative what you've done because the clothing industry is saturated, even jeans is saturated, but you're taking something that's a pain point for a customer, which is the shopping experience and things that don't fit, especially if you're shorter, taller, bigger, really small, like it never is quite right. And you created something that serves that. And that's why I'm just so fascinated how you even came to this idea because it's not an A to B line. What made you saw that people said you have a knack for this, but what were you doing before that kind of led you more into this specific business?
Selling online, just kind of, living my life, posting on Instagram. People would find me on Instagram. That's usually where most people find me. And I would have an occasional local person ask me, "Hey, I live here in Boulder, for instance. Can I try on jeans?" And I'm like, "Ooh, okay. I, operate out of my house. I will bring some to you and we can hang out at your house for about an hour and you can try on denim," which awkward. But the funny thing is, it's like everyone was always so open to it. It's weird letting a stranger into your home with a pair, like with a crate full of jeans. But I did that, and the funny thing is each and every person that I did that for, I specifically remember each of those people because I think it was even more of like a special experience, and, we still I feel like I still see them on Instagram, and it's so yes, it was a very humbling time in my business where I was schlepping denim around the city to people's houses, and this is not something that I broadcasted. I would not offer this. It was only if someone asked me for it. So it was really just like a small handful of times, but the funny thing is doing that then ultimately dropped off jeans at someone's house that she is well connected in Boulder, knew a lot of other small business owners. Those other small business owners reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, we would love for you to pop up at our studio," and they, wanted to meet me and they kind of, took me in, introduced me to a bunch of people. That was how I ultimately ended up meeting other small businesses and that was how I started renting space from another business for about a year, and that was the moment that I came up with okay, I'm gonna do this by appointment only.
The hustling phase, I think we all go through that, where you're just kind of doing all, like, possibly however you can to sell that service or that product in any way possible, some advertised, some not. And then the thing that I always say on this show, which is I really believe that you only grow with other people, and you found a community of entrepreneurs, small business owners who were welcoming you and brought you in to create the business model you have now, and that's so key. I feel like so many times I did this in the beginning of my business of where I just tried to do it all on my own, and I just don't think it ever works.
Yes, yes, it's so true. I remember schlepping denim, I learned over the years is oh god, it's very exhausting. So, yeah, the magic is really coming into the studio.
The way that you're doing business is not a way that you would have thought about. Like, the more obvious route was the pop-up because that's what you knew, and this is not something that was so common or people talked about, but it's the thing that took off, and I think that that's a really important thing for people listening to hear is that what you think your business is gonna be is not usually how it ends up.
1000%. Never in a yeah, I like I said, in 2021, if you'd asked me, I thought, "You know what? I'm just going to continue running this business out of my house. The shipping thing is working for me. It's no overhead." I mean, I even thought maybe I'll get like a bus and convert it. I thought about those a few times, and my husband was like, "Absolutely not," because he's handy with cars, and I'm like, "Yeah, you could just fix it if you need to," and he was like, "No, that's not gonna happen, absolutely not. You're not gonna buy this bus that's gonna break down on you and then I'm gonna have to fix." So, I definitely had a lot of different ideas on how I wanted to do it, but I was always at that point thinking, "You know what? This will work for me. I can just do the online thing," and that's how a lot of people operate, and I'm sure that, and it works for them. I guess I just had bigger goals I didn't know about at the time, and glad that I did because, moving into the studio and moving into my own space last October was, like, the best thing I could have ever done. It was terrifying at first, but I've doubled, maybe tripled my growth from even last year. I don't know how I'll grow past this, and I'm hoping that there will be something that will come along and it'll present itself, but right now I'm really just living in the present and enjoying what's happening right now and not really thinking too much about, 5 years from now.
This is probably the more realistic, but also best way to do it because you can make the 3 to 5-year plan, I've made those, and usually you do 1 or 2 things on a multi-page document. It doesn't really play out the way that you envision it,
Well, it's more
ever.
like failing upwards.
Yeah. Failing upwards, I like
Yeah.
that.
Learning the things that I would much rather pay someone to do versus the things that I wanna do myself. And being so busy, yeah, I guess I sometimes think like, "Oh my gosh, I just need someone to go in and answer all my emails and messages for me on a, weekly basis or something," because it starts to I feel like things fall through the cracks because I will respond, but then I just, I'm like, "Oh, squirrel," and then I get distracted and yeah. So, I need someone to, like, keep me in line, I guess.
Yeah, I think that that's the best first hire, honestly, is someone that can just kinda help you stay on top of communication. There's nothing better when you forget something and they remember, and you just think, "Wow, thank you so much for being here." So, you're probably at that point where you're getting close to finding someone that can do that, but it's a good problem to have. Again, it's not a bad problem at all. The last question to ask you is because 'cause we're coming towards the end here, and I wanna make sure I ask this because it's kind of the most important one, is where are you finding the most purpose in your business? What is it that's really lighting you up, exciting you, making you think?
It's definitely these one-on-one experiences that I'm able to give to people when they come in. People come in and it's like a for some, it's like a very vulnerable experience and like very transformative because they will come in and they will tell me stuff like, I haven't worn jeans in 15 years and this is why. Or I just had a baby 6 months ago and I'm looking for my body has changed and I've never had this body before in my life. So I need to know how to buy denim for this body now because this is my body. And or one that I get a lot is I'm going through menopause. And once again, this, I've never had this body before. What is this? This is not the shape I've ever had before. So helping people and not just women, I actually have a lot of guys that come in as well. That's also a something that I want people to know is that yes, I can also help guys. But anyways, I think for women, because I think our bodies change a little bit more. They come in and I also get this comment, "Wow, I was on my way here and I was thinking there's no way she's ever gonna be able to find a pair of jeans for me." I'm sure like, what if this doesn't work out? Or they're really, really nervous and, they don't know what to expect. And then at the end, they're buying the denim that they are loving, and definitely we've just spent an hour together, we've bonded. A lot of times people ask me if they can give me a hug. It's just this it's literally, however long that day, 5 to 7 appointments a day, I make, like, 5 to 7 new friends. It's the coolest thing, and I don't think that that would be the case if people were just coming in and shopping. It's very much it's buying denim, but it's also like it's a special experience that, people like let me into their lives and we just chat. We talk about whatever's going on in their life or but yeah, and then, then I'm able to make connections and
When I read more about what you do, that this is probably the experience people walk away with. Because I mentioned to you, my horrible recent experience was I never buy jeans because of the same reason many people come to you, that they just never fit, it doesn't feel comfortable, and you leave feeling worse than when you walked in, but I had to do it because it'd been, I don't know, 8 years, and so I went in, I went through 4 different sizes trying to find the right one. No one's helping you. The people are getting angry that you keep giving the jeans that they have to fold and put away. Like,
that
it's such a
so
horrible
sorry.
experience.
We should never have people like that.
Yeah, it's not nice, and then in the end, I got them and it's fine, but I think, like, it's still the case of it doesn't quite fit right on the waist because I have wider hips, and that's the situation with so many people. They will just walk away the same exact way, and if they're feeling very vulnerable in their body especially, it can really bring you down, especially after a baby or menopause or any sort of big body change. So what you do, it's really an incredible service because jeans are something we wear every day almost, a lot of people, and you should feel comfortable in them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I preach a lot to people. I'm like, also, your jeans don't have to be, squeezing you unless you want them to be, but your jeans don't have to be tight in order to look good. As long as they're hitting all the points that they need to hit. I wear my jeans really loose. I want to be comfortable. So that's another thing that I talk about all the time. I'm, never gonna try to push someone into a tight fitting pair. I think that we can find the right fitting pair that for each person as well. So
If people are listening and they wanna know more about what you're doing in your work, and maybe if they're also in your area, book an appointment, how can they find you?
my website is This Is Loved, LOVD. There you can find, a little bit about the experience. And then my Instagram is also at This Is Loved. That's LOVD. That is probably my number one marketing tool. So you'll find a lot of videos with results. So you'll see videos of people that I fit into denim. So you can kind of get a good idea of like other people's body shapes that I've helped in the past. Coming here for some denim and for some mountains is probably, a great idea.
And I think it's a good idea, a vacation in the mountains with some jeans. It sounds very iconic. Thank you so much for coming on this show. I really think it's like this is an area you're an amazing example of someone who's created something that's so unique and different from something that's more mainstream. And I think that that's the way to go, so much so, especially for products. So thank you for sharing your story and for everything that you're doing for people who come into your shop.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much, Sade. I really appreciate this.